What's going on, everybody? Are you having trouble spending an eternity between sets? Or, on the other hand, getting right into your next set and being so burnt out in the cardiovascular system that you can't get a proper working set? Well, then this video is for you. But before we get into that, we are so close to 100 subscribers. I'm floored by the amount of people that want to watch these videos. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, send the video around. We'd love to have you as part of the community. Now, most of these videos that I make come directly from questions from my in-person clients. So when I was asked by one of my in-person clients, hey, coach, they don't call me coach, but I wish that they would. Hey, Jonah, how long should I be resting in between sets? Well, I knew. I immediately left the session. I came here to record this video so that I could give the answer to my YouTube channel. That's not entirely true. I definitely answered her question on the spot, but I thought that this would make a pretty solid YouTube video, so I decided to record something and just put it out there. So as you know, we like to take both a scientific and an anecdotal approach on this channel. So we're gonna go through the science, we're gonna go through some anecdotal evidence from my training, from my clients' training. We're gonna answer any and all questions that you could have on rest periods in between sets. We're not gonna go into resting outside of the gym, on rest days, sleep. We'll save that for another video. This is specifically going to be between the end of your first set and the start of your second set, how long you should be resting. So without any further ado, let's first get into the science. All right, friends, as you know, we worship at the Church of Dr. Brad Schoenfeld on this channel. I find his information to be incredible. He's one of the leaders in the field of hypertrophy training. So why wouldn't we go to our boy, Dr. Brad, first and foremost? To adequately answer the question about rest times, we've got to wade through what actually makes our muscles grow in terms of hypertrophy, and there are a lot of different mechanisms. Dr. Brad has done a ton of work on the mechanisms of hypertrophy. You can search in any search engine. Google Scholar is my preferred, but if you got PubMed or whatever, Dr. Brad, mechanisms of hypertrophy, you will get more information than you ever thought existed. But I want to take your attention to two key pieces of the puzzle. Now, most everyone who trains at a particular level of difficulty understands the burning sensation they get in their muscles, right? Feeling the burn, you gotta feel the burn. Well, there is some truth to the fact that feeling the burn, quote unquote, is what is causing muscular hypertrophy. Now, the idea is that it is metabolic stress, right? It is metabolites entering the muscle, and that is definitely a mechanism for hypertrophy, but that's not the end of the story. So if you think about metabolic stress and feeling the burn, some people would say, well, you want to feel more burn, meaning you rest less. There's definitely some truth to that, but there's also another side of the story. Let's flip it on its head a little bit, because another aspect of hypertrophy is mechanical tension, which basically boils down to the stretch and the squeeze, the amount of load that you can apply to a given muscle. So if you think about it logically, if you want a lot of metabolic stress, then a shorter rest period might be more effective. But on the other hand, if you want a lot of mechanical tension, then you may need to rest more so that you can apply more mechanical tension. The difference between those two things boils down in a real world context kind of like this. Let's take the bench press, for example. If you're in the metabolic stress camp, you may do sets of 135 pounds, which may not be significantly taxing, but you may cut your rest times to about 10 to 15 to 20 seconds in between. So you're doing set after set after set, building up a huge burn in the chest, and that way you're going to reach adequate hypertrophy. In the mechanical tension camp, you may be doing sets of 225 for 8, where you're taking more of a 1 minute, 1 minute 30, 2 minute rest period in between each set so you can adequately give the muscle enough mechanical tension to force growth. Both of these things are true, and both of these things work together, which I think is where a lot of the confusion comes from. So you may be asking yourself, okay, great, mechanical tension, metabolic stress, which camp do I fall in? I have no idea what the hell to do. Well, Dr. Brad has some findings released in 2016. Dr. Brad et al. Want to give some credit to the other authors of the paper. In the experiment, there was 21 resistance trained men, meaning they had some experience with resistance training. One group training with shorter rest periods, 1 minute to be exact. The other group training with longer rest periods, 3 minutes to be exact. They took them through, I think it was an 8-week strength training, and they measured maximal strength, and they also measured muscle thickness. Guess what? The longer rest groups were higher in both maximal strength and muscle thickness. So scientifically, it may be that a longer rest period may be more effective. Now, always and forever, this does not mean that just because one study showed one thing that this is fact and law, but the overwhelming evidence points towards that way. All right, folks, so based on the science, it may seem like longer rest periods are the move, but I just released a video talking about spending less time in the gym. Go check it out right here. Do I have to delete that video? Pump your brakes. Pump the brakes. Longer rest periods might be better, and we've seen some examples of that, some solid evidence towards that. But that doesn't mean that you gotta pitch a tent in the gym and take a nap in between sets of bicep curls, right? Context is important. The exercise selection is also incredibly important. If you're taking a 47-minute power nap in between tricep kickbacks, you are wasting your time and everybody's laughing at you. You have to understand that some exercises are more metabolically and cardiovascularly taxing than others. So real quick, let's move away from the science real quick. Let's just rap. Let's just have a chat, right? You know that burning feeling you get in your lungs, jelly legs, the inability to remember your mom's maiden name, you don't know what your first name is, you're about to throw up, right? That is the feeling you get after a hard set. For me, it's usually after a hard set of a compound movement, a squat or a deadlift. Bench doesn't really do it for me, but those two, if I'm seeing the face of God, then I know that I need a longer rest period. That rarely, if ever, happens to me on a single joint movement, especially not on a machine movement. So like I said, it's context specific. If you are doing an AMRAP and as many reps as possible on a squat, you are going to need an extended rest period after that if you're going for another set. That's just the fact of life. But if you are doing a single joint movement, you may only need a minute to a minute and a half, sometimes even less. Obviously, the science is incredibly important. It helps us mold our training to get the most out of our sessions. But I do not think that because one experiment showed that 3-minute rest periods helped increase muscularity, that every single exercise should be followed with a 3-minute rest period. You'd be in the gym for 3 hours and then you'd ultimately quit, because who has the time for that? So it has to be exercise specific. Take your time on your bigger compound movements and then pick the pace up maybe on your single joint stuff. That's just my opinion, man. If it works for you, go for it. If you want to take 3 minutes and you've got the time, go for that too. Over the years, I've picked up a couple cues from some people that I trust, some coaches of my own, Dr. Mike Israetel, another of a fan favorite on this channel, about how to determine for yourself if you are ready to go for another set, because the science can say one thing and experience can say another. But if you ask yourself some of these questions, I really think that you'll get to understand if you need more rest or if you're ready to go for another set. So for me, the number one thing is cardiovascularly. Am I ready for another set based on my beats per minute? If I'm up in the 160s because I just came off of a hellish set of squats, I'm not going right into another set after I get down to 140, okay? I'm gonna give myself a little bit more time. So you've gotta ask yourself, am I ready based on my heartbeat and my heart rate specifically to go for another set? Because if you are limited cardiovascularly, you are not going to get the same stimulus to the muscle that you're trying to work when you go for another set, and you're leaving muscular growth on the table. That's fact. If you burn out because you're huffing and puffing, your muscles are not going to failure. Your muscles are not getting close to failure. You're not getting adequate stimulus. In that same vein, if you are so pumped and if you are so metabolically stressed in the given muscle after a set, so say you went for some myo reps or a drop set on the bicep curl and your biceps are so pumped that you cannot even bend your elbows, then you may need to allow some of that metabolic stress to deteriorate so that you are ready for another set. So you've got to ask yourself, I like to say, can I do 5 or 6 reps on my next set? If so, then I think I might be ready to go for another set. But you've got to find what works for you. If you want to, give yourself a stopwatch, go for it. I'm not a huge fan of the stopwatch in terms of metabolic stress because everybody's different. But if that's something that works for you, then go for it. I'm not here to tell you what's be all end all. There's no dogma on this channel. We go for what works. The last, and I think maybe most important thing, is psychologically. Are you ready? Are you ready to grab the bar again and to do good quality reps? If you're not mentally prepared to do something hard again, then the next set is going to be a struggle and you're not going to get the most out of it. I know after a set of deadlifts, I'm huffing and puffing, man, but mentally I feel like, geez, there's no way that I could do this again right now. And then Over a couple minutes, my brain starts to say, okay, you can do it again. And then I know I'm ready when it's like, okay, let's do it. I get back to that level of arousal to where I'm ready to go for another set. So you've got to find what that is for you. We train to understand when we are ready to do something hard again. At least that's what I do, and I hope that that's what you do, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about setting boundaries, and it's about breaking through those boundaries, mostly psychologically. I have had times when I just want to say, you know what? That set of deadlifts took it out of me. I'm done. But you give yourself some time, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is, you rest, you breathe, you reset mentally, and then you go for another set. So those are the big three: cardiovascularly, muscularly, psychologically. If those three things are checked, go for your next set. I don't care if it's 30 seconds or 3 minutes. Do it. At the end of the day, folks, we can't sweat the small stuff, and I think that rest periods may be on the smaller end of training overall, but they are still important. So I hope that you got some interesting information off of this. If you have cues that you use to tell you when you're ready for another set, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Again, we want to use a combination of what the science is telling us and what our body is telling us on the day. We can't get caught in one or the other. We have to use everything. We live in a world where we can get all this information at the snap of our fingers. We might as well utilize all of it. Thank you so much for watching another video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and like, subscribe, all that jazz. Again, I really appreciate the constant support from everybody that's checking out these videos. To be almost at 100 subscribers is kind of insane that there's 100 people that listen to me. That's cool. Thank you so much for that. Just want to express my gratitude on that. Everything I discussed in terms of the scientific papers will be linked down below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Get strong, stay strong. The key is to stay strong. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.